What's up, everyone? Just wanted to share with you a quick review or shout out to some of my favorite books. Now, this is not the full extent of all of my reading. This is just a small selection, but I just want to share with you some of my favorite readings of late. And I think that some of these books are quite relevant and pertinent to some of the conditions and situations we face today. So I personally use books as a sort of cheat code to inform my decision making, to inform my logical thinking process, as well as to train my mind in terms of thinking much broader than perhaps the academic context that I've been exposed to. So, as you can see, the books are quite broad in their range. These are books that I've collected over the years. I actually started my reading habit well over 14 years ago, and I've kept to it ever since. And as a result, I've got an exhaustive collection of books from a wide range of topics. And I personally see books as having conversations with the authors. So some of these authors you may know of, some you might not know of, but I really think these books have been quite crucial in informing and guiding my life all the way since I left high school up until now. I actually started reading more exhaustively in coming out of high school at the age of 18. I decided to take it upon myself to educate myself during my gap year, and while I was making the decisions as to what to do next in my life in terms of my career field, so I started reading and consuming all of these books, and they range through a wide range of topics by authors from all over the world, so also getting different cultural perspectives as well as different philosophical or creative perspectives. So these books are, for me, like having conversations with the authors. I get to think how the person who wrote it thinks. I get to see things from their perspective, and I also get to learn a lot more than I would have normally learned in my academic pursuits or in my immediate circle of associates, friends, and people that I converse with. So while I'm also quite academic in my perspective, I also enjoy just reading books for the sake of reading books. Some are for the sake of application, some are just for the sake of interest and learning. And I read to gather information, I read to gather principles, insights, frameworks, models for decision making and acting, as well as for personal development. So unfortunately, you won't find many fictional books in my collection, and I think that's something I would like to change going forward. I'd like to start reading a bit more fiction and just widen my interest in terms of what I read. But in any case, I'm going to kickstart with a shout out to one of the seminal books of this age, and it's called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari, an exploration of fire, what gave us power, farming, what made us hungry for more, money, which gave us purpose, as well as science, which made us quite deadly forces in the ecology. So quite a remarkable book. And another one from a local culture perspective as well as local traditional perspective in the African context is a book by Credo Mutwa, Indaba My Children. It's a remarkable book, an African tribal history, legends, customs, and religious beliefs text. It's really been quite seminal in terms of the anthropological landscape in the African continent and primarily Southern Africa as well. So another book I highly recommend is The One-Page Marketing Plan. This is a great read for someone who really wants to get a firm understanding of marketing. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a seasoned marketer, I think there's great insights to be garnered here. And the author really breaks it down in a formulaic, systematic, as well as applicable way, and gives you the best insights on how to get new customers, make money, and stand out. So highly recommend this book if you are into marketing at all. Now, another great marketing book is a book by Ogilvy called Advertising. Now, I think this is a cult classic. Anybody that's in the advertising space, anybody that's in the communication field has probably heard of Ogilvy. But really remarkable book, great insights, timeless insights on how to create advertising campaigns that really work. And he really distills the thought patterns and the principles that are timeless, that are quite universal as well. And as you can see, the subtitle is I Hate Rules, but it's essentially a free and creative exploration of some of the ideas that have really come about in the advertising age and what some of those principles are based on in terms of behavioral patterns of consumers, in terms of the localization of commercial communication and the localization of messaging. This book really brings to life how one can take a brand and actually convey the benefits, the features, as well as the desirability and the emotional connection and hook that people need to have with the brand in order to build brand equity or in order to grow as a business. Now, for another really great book, this book here called Alchemy, The Surprising Power of Ideas That Don't Make Sense. If you haven't heard about who Rory Sutherland is, please check him out. He's the vice chairman of Ogilvy as of recording this, and he's done quite a lot of TED Talks as well as social media and podcast appearances. So if you just search for Rory Sutherland, you'll get to understand a bit more about his philosophy, his way of thinking, and some of the ideas that he advocates. But this is a great book. It's really all about how to take ideas that don't seem practical and make them work. Really the joining of two or more ideas that shouldn't necessarily live together, but finding ways to make those ideas thrive in conjunction with each other. So one of the other reasons that I read quite extensively is so I can train my mind, so I can just develop that mental muscle to concentrate, focus over extended times. Now, a lot of people don't really like reading because it's so arduous, but for me, I just find it so stimulating in that it trains my mind to really process things in a concentrated form over a long period and be able to synthesize and make compelling arguments based off the information that I've collected through the books, right? So it's not a matter of just taking in the information, but it's like as you read, you also get to engage and interact with the information in a way that you can make it applicable and relevant to your individual circumstances. And that's certainly how I read. I don't read in a bottom-up fashion, as in that the book just tells me the information and where the author has full authority over what goes into my brain, but I also interrogate and question as well as do my own investigation of the topics and ideas found in the books. So if it can be validated across multiple sources and also found to be rigorous and applicable, then it's an idea that I can incorporate into my own toolkit. But it's also my responsibility to investigate and validate some of the concepts I find in this book, and I test them for efficacy myself before I actually start adopting any principle or philosophy that is sold to me in a book. Now, another way of reading is that you don't necessarily need to read the entire book from start to finish in one sitting or in one go. I of late like to actually read and peruse multiple books at a given time, but I don't read for the sake of completion. I read for the sake of understanding, integration, as well as application. So earlier on, I was doing the opposite of this. I would go through a book from A to Z, from first page to the last page, but I've since learned that although I may have needed that process in that time to actually get my brain trained on how to read, how to sustain concentration for longer periods of time, and how to stick with something even though I don't find it interesting, and find ways of making it interesting. So if you absolutely have to read and you have to learn a dense subject matter that may no longer interest you at any given point in your reading, I highly recommend that you take a break from reading that specific book or subject or topic and actually switch over to something that is of interest or relevance to you, and then you kind of alternate between the two. So you read something difficult and you read something very easy, and you'll find that your rate of sustained attention, your rate of sustained concentration, your rate of sustained focus on consumption and understanding will actually increase if you keep those two in balance while reading something that may be technically challenging or not necessarily as interesting to you. And now with that said, I've left a recommended reading list on some of my favorite books in the description, so you can have a look at that. And it's a recommended reading list that I think is a good starting point for anybody wanting to explore any of the different subject matters I've covered there. And now with that, please hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you think. If you've ever read any of the books I've recommended, what was your thoughts on them? If you have any recommended books, please let us know, and thanks for watching.